CDO human rights priority country, and we raise human rights with the Colombian government representatives whenever possible. Indeed, I discussed the issue at length with ministers, relevant institutions, and indeed civil society during my virtual visit to Colombia on the 13th of October. We're also proud to lead on Colombia's peace process at the UN Security Council and have contributed £60 million in support of peace, stability and security since 2015.
I thank the Noble Lord very much for his answer, and I refer to my interest as recorded in the register. The peace process is clearly vital. So a recent newspaper report in Colombia revealing details of an undercover operation by the Colombian Attorney General's office, apparently designed to entrap FARC peace negotiators and undermine the peace process, is alarming. The Attorney General's office, led by Nestor Humberto Martinez, reportedly provided 5 kilos of cocaine for the operation, but this and other relevant information was withheld from the courts. I ask my Noble Lord the Minister, was the British ambassador or were other British authorities made aware of those details at the time of the arrest of the FARC peace negotiator in 2018? And what is the government's assessment of these revelations?
As the Noble Lady will appreciate, I'm not going to comment specifically on press reports. In terms of the specifics of the case, she raises important challenges that Colombia continues to face, and the issue of narcotics and drugs is a major one, and Colombia remains one of the largest producers of cocaine in the world, amongst others. The violence also that we currently see affects local communities and former FARC combatants, led by the issues we've seen around drugs. We remain committed to peace accords, which the current President and his team have assured us of. On the specific matters of the case, if there is more information to share, I will write to the Noble Lady.
Alison Jones.
My Lords, I was privileged to meet brave journalists when I visited Colombia, people such as Ginés Bedoya. So can my noble friend say what support the government now gives to the Colombian Press Freedom Foundation and how effective they assess that to be in the face of the continuous threats of rape, kidnap and death that journalists face?
My Lords, may I firstly pay tribute to my noble friend during her tenure as Minister of State, was the FCO, for her leadership on a broad range of human rights and standing up for human rights defenders. Indeed, in my virtual visit, I also my first meeting was with journalists to actually ascertain and understand more effectively the challenges they have. We are aware of allegations that members of the Colombian military have been illegally gathering surveillance on activists, including journalists and opposition politicians. And we have raised this directly with the Colombian authorities. We lend support both in terms of technical support, and indeed we will be raising issue of journalist freedom and press freedom across the piece in our leadership role on the Coalition for Media Freedom.
Vice Cousins.
My Lords, the UK has spoken up in the Security Council about the special jurisdiction for peace, but can the Minister say what public support has been given by the UK Embassy in Bogotá to this War Crimes Tribunal in the light of the attempts by President Duque to undermine its work?
Again, I pay tribute to the Noble Lady's work in this area, and the United Kingdom has and continues to provide support to help Colombia tackle in particular the legacy of sexual violence from its long conflict. And UK support continues to support survivors and has helped document now 1,200 new cases, which are now before the transitional justice system. Let me assure the Noble Lady, in my visit to Colombia, I made it absolutely clear the need, whilst this is an independent judicial body, that it should not be interfered with, and we continue to stand up for the rights of all survivors of sexual violence during the period of conflict.
Lord Monks.
Yeah, I declare an interest as a Vice President of Justice for Colombia. The Transitional Justice Court, which was created in Colombia by the peace agreement, has been hailed by the International Criminal Court as a benchmark for the world. But is the government aware, our government aware, that the Colombian government is undermining the court's mandate? And of course, this, by the way, in a country where there's still widespread violence. And does the Noble Minister agree that ending the court's ability to function fairly rather contradicts the HMG's funding to support the peace process. So what steps can the UK take to protect the court's autonomy?
My Lord, in answer to the Noble Lord, I assure him during my visit, and indeed in all engagements through our ambassador, we raise the importance of the very matters that he's raised. And in terms of our commitment to the peace process, I think the UK can be proud of the fact that it's contributed to the importance of an inclusive peace process, and we will continue to do so.
Baroness Northover.
Global Witness has found that Colombia is the world's most dangerous country for environmental activists, with more than 60 murders in 2019. How are we engaging to help protect these activists, and in terms of combating climate change in Colombia generally?
My Lords, first of all, on the issue the Noble Lady has raised, as I said in my opening answer, Colombia remains a human rights priority country, but I agree with her. It's quite shocking, the statistics we see. I mean, with the latest figures that the UN has released, at least 45 human rights defenders have been killed this year alone. However, that said, we are working very closely with Colombia on the importance of protecting the environment and climate change. And our climate programming in Colombia is designed with a conflict-sensitive approach. And much of its aim is to protect Colombia's biodiversity, but also protect those who are leading the important role within country.
Lord Collins, Highbury.
My Lords, Colombia's Supreme Court declared that state security forces systematically violate citizens' democratic right to peaceful protest, and the Colombian army has this year been implicated in killings in rural areas. Given that the UK funding to train Colombian police, are steps being taken to ensure that human rights concerns in the Colombian security forces are properly addressed?
My short answer to the Noble Lord is yes, they are, but the concerns he raised are real, and he's quite right to raise them on the floor of the House. I assure him in all the exchanges we have, including our continuing support, be it financial or technical, these issues of human rights obligations of those that are trained and are there to protect people is very much at the forefront of our discussions.
Baroness Hooper.
My Lords, in aiming to help strengthen and reinforce democratic principles and the rule of law in Colombia, can my noble friend tell us if the British Council is playing a significant role? And is it part of the government's assessment process, which he has already outlined?
My Lords, we have an extensive programme, but on the specific ongoing engagement of the British Council, I will write to my noble friend.
Viscount Waverley.
My Lords, keeping Colombia centre stage and supported is much needed after long agony. The ministers referred to the question of drugs. Could government assist by helping to provide essential access to markets for Colombian farmers as substitution to cocoa growing? And if so, how might this be achieved? This, in addition, provide essential access to markets for Colombian farmers as substitution to cocoa growing? And if so, how might this be achieved? This, in addition, human rights are respected with the possible deployment of UK police with their professionalism to offer training and support to the Colombian authorities. Thank you.
My Lords, the Noble Lord makes some very practical suggestions which I will certainly take forward on the general point of how we can shift those that are reliant on the drugs trade within Colombia to alternative means. Again, a very practical suggestion. And I'm sure that through our work on the ground, particularly through our embassy, we are working and identifying appropriate measures that can be taken to assure that we can act responsibly and move people away from narcotics and drugs.
Folks will come and knock.
My Lords, as the Minister said earlier, we have an important role as a member of the Security Council. Will he go back to the Security Council and ask for a new initiative by the United Nations to approach President Duque to get him to get the peace process moving again? I think if he could do that as a result of this important question, the United Kingdom would be making a very significant move in the right direction.
I shall certainly be happy to take that back to the UN Security Council.
Lord Alderdice.
Does Her Majesty's Government accept the description by the head of the UN mission in Colombia, Carlos Ruiz Massieu, of, quotes, an epidemic of violence against social leaders, human rights defenders, and former combatants? And if so, what are they doing to address the situation, especially as regards the Colombian security forces?
My Lords, first of all, I've already talked to this particular issue, and I agree with the Noble Lord. The situation for human rights defenders is dire, and we remain deeply concerned about the continued presence of illegal armed groups in Colombia, their violence, their intimidation, particularly on local people, let alone human rights defenders. But I assure the Noble Lord, as I've already said, that in all our support, particularly as we continue to press the existing government and the President for a renewal and a real vigour behind the peace talks, that they are in kind, the peace talks, that they are inclusive, but in all their actions that the important works of human rights groups, human rights defenders, and more generally the citizens of Colombia are total.
My Lords, time allowed for this question has elapsed.